But first of all, I wanted to start just by thanking everybody for everybody involved. I mean, and I want to start specifically with Joy and Amy, who have just been stellar with regards to not only making this day happen, but also kind of guiding me and all of the curriculum, not the curriculum, but the AOA selection committees in terms of the work that we needed to do to make this day happen. So I humbly give you my thanks, because it really, without you, this really wouldn't have happened. So I wanted to start, just for those of you who might be logged on and may not know much about what this AOA is all about. I really want to give just a little bit of background. You can see the founding of AOA in 1902, National Medical Honor Society, and the mission statements down there. But really wanted to kind of look at the 5 pillars, if you will, of what it means to be an AOA. And I think it's very easy to sum this up in many ways as essentially recognizing and valuing the excellence in the profession of medicine. So as students moving into residence, obviously into attendings, alumni at some point as well, that's what today's all about. It's all about recognizing high educational achievement, honoring gifted teaching, encouraging the development of leaders, supporting the ideals of humanism, and promoting service to others. And this really is a lifelong, it's the beginning, I think, in many ways. People talk about this as the beginning of a lifelong commitment to all of those attributes that we just went over. I also want to bring up here that we, by national bylaws, can nominate up to 25% of a medical school's class, but only 16% may be elected. And again, it's based upon those same characters that that I had on the first slide as well. Now, this might change a little bit. We may be going up to 20% in the next couple of years, but this is where you were at. You were among a select 1 in 6 of your colleagues who were ultimately identified and elected based upon those characteristics. And I also wanted to make a point here, both nationally and locally, about how committed AOA is moving into the future and really putting the spotlight on this whole idea of, how do we become more inclusive and the like. And so AOA spent literally nationally the last 5, 6, 7, 8 months in lots and lots of different subgroups, ultimately published an article in Academic Medicine about how AOA's commitment to historically underrepresented racial and ethnic groups, and any group traditionally considered underrepresented in medicine, for inclusion into the AOA membership. So I just wanted to make that case as well, because we are moving forward on this. Dr. Barry, all the other chairs, and myself are really committed to moving in this direction. So anyways, welcome. I do want to go to the next phase of our agenda. And in doing so, I do want to introduce one of my favorite people in the world, quite frankly. And again, we talk about how careers kind of intermesh over the course of our lives, and Dr. Wagner's and myself certainly has, dating back to the time when I was a medical student. But she got her MD degree at the University of Illinois, Chicago, University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago. Did her IM residency. Actually started out as a pathologist and realized that really wasn't for her, and she entered our IM residency around the time I was a medical student. And she's had a lot of twists and turns in her, in her professional career. But she's currently, as all of you know, since you probably have met with her no fewer than multi-dozens of times, she's a general internist. She is the CHM Interim Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Medical Education. She has been, it says, charged with the implementation. I think she's also one of the, if not the primary person who developed the guiding principles for the shared discovery curriculum. And obviously we're in the implementation and growth phase right now. And this has really been in many ways her labor of love. Her academic interests include patient safety teaching and evaluation, the development of assessment systems. And when I think of Dr. Wagner, I think of the words, the adjectives humble, I think thoughtful, I think caring, I think flexible yet principle-based, and above all, I think fun. So Dr. Wagner, I'm going to turn this over to you. I'm going to stop my screen share and go ahead and let you give your remarks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ferencik, for those lovely words of introduction. And thanks to all my wonderful colleagues who have made this celebration possible and for inviting me to say a few words. To each and every AOA member and inductee, congratulations. You have earned this distinction because of your leadership, academic excellence, research accomplishments, professionalism, service to the community, teaching, or other exemplary behaviors. But you did not behave as a leader or do your community service or achieve your academic excellence, engage in discovery, demonstrate professionalism, or provide service to others so that you would become an AOA inductee. You did those things because you wanted to be a part of the solution and because you were trying to do the right thing. Each of you has done both, been a part of the solution and tried to do the right thing on your journey to this virtual ceremony. But what you did was not virtual, it was real. Done in real time, what you did took real effort and represents real hard work. Kudos to each and every one of you for the time and effort and hard work that went into all of these very real accomplishments, the real good that this induction represents. There is really no limit, in my opinion, to what is possible when people strive to improve their skills, understand things better, solve problems, help others, or do the right thing. In the midst of a conundrum or a confusion or dire straits, including the roiling waters of a pandemic and societal inequality and distress, people working together to do the right thing, solve problems, and help others make almost anything possible. It makes inevitable mistakes tolerable. It makes even the hardest journey joyful. It makes all the difference in the world. Thank you for making a difference in the world. I will turn this over to our next speaker.
So we are going to have a video right now from Dr. Binney, who is the Executive Director of AOA. So he's given us a 2 to 3 minute video of welcome. So I want to go ahead and turn it back over to either Joy or, yeah, there is Joy. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this.
Welcome to AOA. On behalf of all 200,000 plus members of Alpha Mega Alpha Honor Medical Society, it's my great privilege to be with you today, of course from a socially responsible distance, and to welcome you as our newest members. Congratulations. I'm Dr. Richard L. Binney, and I've been the Executive Director of AOA since 2010. I'm the editor of our AOA journal called The Pharos, and I've been a proud lifetime dues member of AOA since 1964. Membership in AOA is an attestation to your being worthy to serve the suffering. You've demonstrated throughout your medical school career that you're an excellent doctor who's trustworthy, embraces medical professionalism, is caring, demonstrates the qualities of a future leader, displays compassion, empathy, and altruism, and is dedicated to serving your community. These are troubling times in which you are entering the medical profession, but please remember that while it is a stressful time for all, it is also transformative. As a profession and as a community, we are being tested daily, but forge on, providing the highest quality of care, regardless of the pressures and the constraints placed on us. You will soon be on the front lines of caring for people who are afflicted by this ruthless pandemic, but you will also be the physicians, medical professionals, and historians who observe, listen, and learn, so that throughout your career you can relay the messages of hope, caring, and resilience so that future generations will be more knowledgeable and secure in their path forward when the next pandemic attacks. As you deal with the trials and tribulations of tomorrow and the achievements you will surely experience throughout your career, AOA will always be here as your partner in medical professionalism, leadership, education, research, and community service. As the nation's only multidisciplinary honor medical society, we value the importance of inclusion, diversity, and equity, and encourage each of our members' chapters and our medical schools across the country to do the same in the name of our profession. In order to be truly worthy to serve the suffering, we must lead our profession in remaining resolute in our commitment to ensuring that medicine remains a noble and a trusted profession. Again, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to AOA. Now go forth and serve the suffering. Congratulations.
Okay, we're moving on to our plenary talk right now. And it's really, for me, personal honor to know Doug. we do go back, you know, our careers have intertwined a little bit over the last 3 or 4 decades. Hard to say that, but that's how long it's been, and the like. And it's been really, from my standpoint, just a real honor knowing him and watching him from afar too. I could, Doug's name and his imprint that you'll see in a few minutes here is over lots of things and the like. So I wanted to begin the introduction basically by just telling you a little bit about who Dr. Powell is. He graduated medical school from the University of Michigan. He completed subsequently a primary care internal medicine residency program at the University of Washington. Ultimately, he was followed by 1 year as chief resident at Harborview Medical Center. In terms of his academic life, he's been on the faculty at the University of Washington Medical School since 1989, has been the director of student teaching since 1991. And I put that dash there because I don't think that's ended. I think he's still the director of student teaching. Now, he's currently a professor of medicine and the Rathman Family Foundation Endowed Chair for Patient-Centered Clinical Education. I just love that acronym, patient-centered clinical education. Clinically, he is a primary care internist who's been providing care to patients with HIV since 1989. And I know, just based upon our conversations over the years, had a very special interest in treating patients with sarcoid as well. Now, his list of distinguished teaching awards is long and includes the Distinguished Teaching Award from the entire University of Washington in 1997. He was the recipient of the Distinguished Teaching Award at the University of Washington School of Medicine in 93, 94, 95, 97. And in 97, they saw the trajectory and said, okay, Doug, time for somebody else to win. Let's just give you the Teacher Superior in perpetuity in 1997. So that's why things stopped there, because they just assumed that this was going to go on probably until the end of his career. He has also been the recipient of the AAMC Distinguished Teaching Award. And these are big awards, by the way. And this is the entire AAMC, basically, in 2001. And I've known Doug also because we've collaborated on many projects, or at least 1 or 2 projects that I can think of with the American College of Physicians. He was elected Master of the ACP in 2008, a honor bestowed on a very small percentage of people who are ACP members. He was given the ACP Centennial Legacy Award in 2015, and I think this past year was given the Jane S. Disforges Distinguished Teacher Award. Now, when I started poking around at the University of Washington website, not stalking you, by the way, Doug, but just saying, what does the University of Washington think about this person named Doug Powell? And I logged in, I searched for all things Powell, and quickly got a sense for Dr. Powell's immense impact on his own university. This is the very first thing that pops up when you go to the UW site and type in his name. Dr. Powell is the best doctor on the face of the earth. So unbelievably caring and compassionate. I'm blessed to have him as my doctor. His involvement in student-run clinics, basically healthcare for the underserved, which looks like it was a course, but also student-run clinics, is heavily represented in searches that have Dr. Powell's name on it. He also led disparity and diversity efforts on issues related to diversion and inclusion within his own department. And I think very impressive also has demonstrated his own personal sense of gratitude by essentially giving a transformative gift back to his own university. In 2016, he gave a commencement address to the graduating class. And it's, part of it was it's hard to be a physician. And indeed, Doug, I think it is hard to be a physician, but I think you've shown us and shown me personally also that being a physician really can be a labor of love. So with that as preface, I'm very anxious to hear what you have to say for our 2020 inductees. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you, Dr. Powell.
Okay, thank you so much, Gary, and thank you so much for that such a kind and generous introduction. And I have very much appreciated our friendship over the years. And Gary and I share so many of the same ideas about what's important in medical education, what's important in the doctors that we all become. And what I would like to do today is share with you some thoughts I have, but I want to share with you things that are more intimate to me. I'm going to talk to you about some of the transformative patient stories I've had. I'm going to talk a little bit, but it's really storytelling that I'm going to share with you, because sometimes it's hard for us to describe something as opposed to just share. And I think some of the messages about what a privilege we have to be doctors, and how important it is that we matter to people. And I think sometimes the stories tell it more than anything else. So what are we thinking when we begin our long journey to become a doctor? For years, I've had the opportunity to look at admissions essays for medical students as well as for students applying for residency. And the theme that we usually see is, I want to make a difference. That's really what people come to and say, I really want to make a difference in the world. And I think the medical profession will allow me to do that. I really want to matter. Congratulations to all of you new inductees for AOA. You're joining an incredible organization that, as Gary pointed out, gives lots of credit for many things. And some of you may not know this, but it was started by a medical student. And Dr. Root was actually a medical student when he started AOA, and he started it because he wanted to make sure that there was an organization that really looked at the highest ideals of the physicians, because at that time there was a lot of concern that physicians were kind of a club that weren't always well educated, and that they didn't always have their patients' best interests in mind. Anyway, you have all spent at least 12 years since somehow you managed to survive junior high school. You will spend at least 3 more years in residency, and some of you will spend 4 to 8 more years of training after medical school. Some of you will devote your lives to research, to making discoveries that will touch thousands of lives. Others will become teachers, joining the lineage of Hippocrates, Galen, and Osler. Many of you will become the very finest physicians in your communities, providing world-class medical care from the smallest towns to the largest cities. It really needs to be worth it. You've already put so much time and effort and given up other things you could be doing with your youth to get this training to serve others. So what makes something worth it? The oldest medical student I have worked with graduated recently at the age of 48. He had a prosperous career as an engineer, but he entered medical school at the age of 43. He liked being an engineer, but he gave it up to pursue the dream of becoming a doctor because he wanted to make more of a difference. So what really matters? The first thing I want to just make sure you're all aware of, and I think this is a common problem we have as physicians of not really recognizing. I want you to know you're all incredibly amazing. I know that doesn't come as a surprise to your parents, friends, and loved ones, but my guess is that many of you, if not all of you, wonder when people will figure out that you are a fraud. How can I be a doctor, you think? On my very first day of residency, I remember I had trouble thinking of the correct dose of Tylenol. And I was thinking, what kind of doctor can I be if I can't even write a Tylenol order for somebody? This feeling was not helped when I lost the little notebook with everything I learned in medical school 4 hours into my internship. I think we're in a much better world now where we can have little mini computers in our phones with us. But in those days, and many of the faculty who are here remember, we wrote everything down. Well, I lost every rule I had within the first 4 hours of internship. I was sure I wasn't going to make it through my first call night, much less my intern year. I made so many mistakes that first year, but the good news was each of those was a chance to learn. The even better news was I had caring, experienced people around me to help catch my goofs and make sure my patients were fine. You know what? That feeling of when will they figure out I shouldn't be here never really goes away. I'm just much more comfortable with it now than I know almost all doctors have this feeling. We remember the few mistakes we make and forget all the great things we do and the right things we do. We strive for perfection and remember where we can improve. Those around us see all the good things and don't know of or aren't worried about the little bumps in the road, so they will see you as the amazing, talented person you are, which is an accurate assessment. The other thing that I think I wanted to touch on real quickly, because I hear it all the time from my medical students when they're thinking about career choice or what they want to do, they use the term quality of life. I hear it all the time, but what really is quality of life? Is it free time? Is it financial security? Is it always doing things that are fun or enjoyable? We all have our own definitions, but I think nothing can beat having a career that you can't wait to get up in the morning to start another day in your cherished field. And at the end of the day, you can't wait to get home to your family and friends, to be able to share stories, to be able to share those special times with them. There is excitement and fulfillment in all parts of your day. This is not only a gift to yourself, but to those all around you. When you are happy and feel fulfilled, your relationships are so much more likely to be healthy. This is an especially important dynamic for children to see. They need to know that they can be content, fulfilled as they grow. They can embrace each minute, recognize and enjoy the perfect moments of your life. I want to try to share some of these special moments that I've learned in stories from my patients. So I will now tell you about a few of my patients and tell you some of the twists and turns and some of the things that add richness into my life. Mrs. Go was an elderly Cambodian immigrant who I met several years after I started practicing at the University of Washington. She spoke absolutely no English, not one word, but was always accompanied by William, a wonderful translator. Her daughters took turns bringing her into her appointments, and they all spoke excellent English and would provide commentary. When I first saw Mrs. Go, she had diabetes and pretty severe renal failure. I worked diligently at managing her diabetes and tried to forestall the inevitable failure of her kidneys. She would always smile at her appointments. Smiling was the universal language Mrs. Go and I communicated through. As her kidneys worsened, I discussed the possibility of dialysis with her. Absolutely no, William translated. Mrs. Go did not like the idea of being kept alive by a machine. One day she came in with her daughter, who told me, "My mother is very sad today. Her husband died yesterday." Mrs. Go did not smile that day, but she did tell me she wanted to start dialysis when it was needed. I asked her why the change of heart, and she told me, "My children need me. Their father died. It is not right for me to die right now." I sent her to the nephrologist to prepare her for dialysis. She returned the next visit and told me, "No dialysis, no dialysis." I asked her why, and she said she didn't trust the kidney doctors. When I asked her why, William translated, "Mrs. Go can trust you because you smile. The kidney doctor never smiles. She can't trust him." I told Mrs. Go that I trusted the kidney doctor and that I would like her to give him another chance. She looked at me with a puzzled look, and then a beautiful smile grew on her face that told me she would give him a second chance. I knew the nephrologist she saw. He was a former resident of mine and was a very good man. He cared deeply about his patients. He just didn't smile a whole lot. I had teased him a lot when he was a resident to try to loosen him up. I called him up and our conversation went something like this. "Hello, Frank? Yes, this is Dr. Fung. Who is this?" "This is Dr. Pao, but that is Mr. Pao to you." I heard him laugh. I said, "Great, Frank, hold that mood and laugh. Make sure you laugh and smile all the time when you see Mrs. Go." Mrs. Go went back to see Dr. Fung and soon started dialysis. She grew to love Dr. Fung and fully trust him. A few years later, Mrs. Go became extremely depressed after a stroke. She didn't open her eyes or respond to anyone in the hospital. Her daughters were very worried and called me to ask if she was dying. I went by to see her at about 9 p.m. one evening when the whole family was present. I wasn't sure what to do as I spoke no Cambodian and William, my trusted translator, was not around. I went over to her, grabbed her hand, and said, "Mrs. Go, it is Dr. Powell. Will you please share your beautiful smile with me?" She opened her eyes, looked at me, looked around the room at her children, and then smiled. Then she started to talk. Her daughter told me, she said, "Dr. Powell is here, Dr. Powell is here. Did you know that Dr. Powell is here?" She slowly improved and had an excellent response to treatment for depression. What happened a few years later will stay with me as long as I live. Mrs. Go came to a clinic visit with William present to translate. I was surprised at how talkative Mrs. Go was. She usually chose her words carefully. I asked her how she was doing, and she said she was very sad. I asked her why, and she told me she had always dreamed of growing old with her large family around her. I was puzzled by this comment as I had met her 3 daughters and 2 sons. I knew she had a family of 11 grandchildren. That seemed like a very large family to me. I asked her about this, saying, "You have a large, beautiful family." She then told me the horror she had kept to herself all these years. She had 5 other children and 4 siblings who were killed in front of her by the Khmer Rouge. She would never have the large family to grow old with. I was reeling when I heard this. Tears filled my eyes when William continued, "Dr. Powell, I too lost most of my family at the hands of the Khmer Rouge. They killed my father and all my brothers." William's eyes filled with tears as he thought about the family he lost. I was crying, William was crying, but Mrs. Go sat expressionless. A few years later, Mrs. Go fell and fractured her hip. Her family insisted she go home instead of a nursing home. Her family took great care of her. At one of her last visits with me, I looked her in the eye and asked her how she was feeling. Mrs. Go said something to William, and William said to me, "Mrs. Go wanted you to know she did not understand a word you said." I laughed, and once again her beautiful smile crossed her face. She passed away about a decade ago, but I still miss her very, very much. I met Donna my first year in practice. In medicine, we often get the wrong impression of our patients before we even walk into the room. We see their charts even before we see them. The story in her chart was very grim. She had lung cancer that had spread to the lining of her heart. Patients who have this problem rarely ever survive more than a few months. She had been treated with radiation in hopes of buying her a few more months, and miraculously, she was here meeting me as her new doctor 3 years later. I walked into the room, exchanged greetings with her. I was struck by her warmth. She greeted with me with a hug, not a handshake. She also had a great sense of humor. She said to me, "You don't see too many patients with terminal cancer who look like me, do you?" I looked perplexed. "What do you mean?" I asked, having no idea what she was getting at. "I mean fat, like me. I don't look like a terminal cancer patient, do I?" We both laughed. She told me about herself. She felt the miracle time she had been given with the surprise remission of her cancer was such a blessing. She had become a volunteer at the hospital, using her humor and optimism to help others who were in need of cheering up. I asked her how she was feeling. She told me she felt great, no breathing problems, no pain, or not even any fatigue. She arrived at her next visit on Halloween dressed as a large pumpkin. I commented on her how it appeared she had gained even more weight. She laughed and explained to me how much fun it was to be dressed up for Halloween in the hospital. I talked to her about how excited my daughter Carly was for Halloween and how she was going to dress up as a princess. We talked a bit about what a privilege and joy it was to raise children. From then on, at every clinic visit, she would ask me about Carly. She would come and see me every 3 months just for a checkup, but as she said, mostly for a chance for us to visit. After I'd been taking care of Donna for about 3 years, she made an urgent appointment to see me. She had developed increasing pain in her right shoulder with pain that would shoot into her hand. Workup of this problem revealed she had recurrence of her lung cancer as a Pancoast tumor with increased invasion, eroding into her brachial plexus. It was difficult to control her pain, and after a few months, she was admitted for hospice. I visited with her several hours one evening at the inpatient hospice facility. She talked about how much she had enjoyed her life. She told me about pranks she had played on her teachers in high school, about the time she went parasailing, and how fast our children grow up. Mostly, she wanted to remind me to enjoy each day and live in every moment. 3 days after my visit with her, Donna died. 6 months after Donna's death, I received a call from her daughter. She asked if she could make an appointment with me to discuss some things. I knew her daughter, Wendy, a bit, as she worked as an administrative assistant in our cardiology department. I wasn't sure what she wished to discuss, but thought it might be to process some of her feelings surrounding her mom's death. When she came for her appointment, I asked how she was doing. She said, "I'm missing Mom every minute of every day." From all my talks with Donna about our children, I knew how much she loved Wendy. I told Wendy about my talks with her mom and how often she would talk about Wendy and how proud she was of her. Wendy started to cry and gave me a hug. She said, "Doug, the reason I'm here is I wanted you to know how much you meant to my mom. She was working on a special gift for you when she died." She pulled out a quilt from a paper bag next to her chair and held it up for me to see. The quilt was multiple squares of a pattern of a young girl holding a parasol. "She made this for you to give to Carly. She was so close to finishing it. She only had 4 squares left to put on it when she died. I took a quilting class so I could learn how to finish it. That's why it has taken so long for me to get this to you." I cried as I thought of all the pain Donna was in while she was making this quilt. The tears included the gifts Donna gave me about living life the best I could every day. Wendy hugged me and said, "I know, I know." So what do these stories tell us? That we really need to appreciate the special place we have as doctors. Our patients trust us with the most scary and intimate details of their lives. We are witnesses to some of the most moving moments that anyone could imagine, and will be a part of amazing healing, standing side by side with our patients and their families through unimaginable loss. All of this enriches our lives and helps teach us how to live, how to appreciate our lives. I wanted to finish by telling you one last story. Shauna was my medical student when I took over Team C the first of the month. A day earlier, she had picked up a patient, a young woman, Kim, with portal vein thrombosis, who had been transferred to University of Washington Hospital from Alaska. The senior resident on the team told me of the icy reception Shauna had received. Shauna was told by the patient she didn't like her. She felt she didn't know her enough to be involved in her care, and she was annoyed by all the questions that Shauna asked. The first day I saw the patient with Shauna, the patient tore into Shauna, telling her in front of me that she was incompetent and was annoying. After we left the room, I asked Shauna if she would feel more comfortable if she followed a different patient on the team. Shauna asked me a good question. Is becoming a doctor all about becoming comfortable? She wished to continue in her care of the young woman. We quickly learned that Kim had many reasons to be upset. Her portal vein thrombosis occurred in the period shortly after delivering her first child. She was told in Alaska that there was nothing more that could be done for her, and she would probably not live more than a few years. She arrived at UW Hospital and was told by the liver transplant specialist that she could not be helped by a liver transplant, which was the one hope she had clung to. Shauna told me she felt this woman felt abandoned by the doctors in Alaska who referred her to the UW. And even though Kim didn't like her, she didn't want to abandon her as well. I was touched by Shauna's dedication and commitment. The next morning on rounds, Kim again stated how much she disliked Shauna and how she felt she was incompetent and how angry she was to be at the University of Washington. She also asked, "Isn't there anybody else you could give to care for me other than this incompetent medical student?" I asked Shauna again if she wanted to continue. She was even more determined to try and help. The next morning was Kim's 21st birthday. Shauna entered her room quietly and put a bouquet of flowers by her bed. When Kim awoke, she was surrounded by her nurse, Shauna, and the rest of the team singing happy birthday to her, complete with a birthday cake that Shauna had ordered and bought for her. Kim cried and then smiled for the first time since arriving at the University of Washington. She gave Shauna a hug. She cried tears that had been ready to be released for weeks. When I returned later that morning to check on Kim, she told me how thankful she was that Shauna had not given up on her. She told me how scared she was of dying alone and of never seeing her baby again. She was so touched by Shauna's kindness to her when she felt that her treatment of Shauna was so cruel. She felt that today, her birthday, she was really seen as a person, not just as an interesting medical case, and that was who she felt she really was. From that day on, whenever we talked to Kim, she would always refer to Shauna as her doctor and wanted to make sure Shauna was in agreement with any plans the consultants or the team had. Kim left the hospital after a 2-week stay, returning to Alaska and her baby. About a week later, a large box arrived at the 6th floor nursing station addressed to Shauna and Team C. I opened the box and found a package with a tag for Dr. Powell, residents, and nurses. Then I found 6 packages, all with tags that said, "For Shauna, my doctor." That seemed about right. I paged Shauna and had her come up to the floor to see this beautiful testimony of her caring. So what do all these stories mean? Our lives are a conglomerate of stories, of perfect moments, of joy, of sorrow, and experience. As physicians, we are allowed into a special place in people's lives. We are trusted, cherished, depended on, and cared about. What is the difference we make? I know that my patients have made a great difference in my life. They have taught me how to appreciate the most of every day. They have showed me courage beyond belief and the ability to see the big picture. They have allowed me the privilege of mattering to them and give me the opportunity to share what I know and have learned from others with them. My students, like my patients, have also been among my greatest teachers. We can make a difference, and by making a difference for others, we are making an important difference in ourselves. Thank you all for the great work you all are doing, and I know you are going to be making an incredible difference in the lives of thousands and thousands of patients, students, and all the people in your lives.
Dr. Powell, this is Dr. Frenchik. Thank you very much. Those stories were very, very moving. Students, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them into the chat. Dr. Powell, I wanted to start. You gave us 3 very, very impressive stories. My question to you is, what do you attribute your intimate connections with these patients and students? What if you look back on it, reflect on your own perhaps personality, values, perspectives, etc. Is this something that's just dug, or is this something that that is learned? Is this something that is trainable, I guess, in some ways? To really forge those types of connections. So I'm curious about your perspective on this idea of learned versus perhaps innate traits that allow you to connect in a really intimate and deep way with people.
I think a lot of us, most all of us have this. And I think what happens sometimes as physicians, we are kind of fearful of showing our humanness about that, we make mistakes. We have an incredible power to heal and be warm, but we also, we botch things sometimes. So sometimes we hide behind the absolute, I am a professional, you have contracted with me, and it's scary. And, I think so much we're taught that is what we need to do, because we need to put a exterior, because it's just such a hard field. We're going to have so much loss. We can't be so connected, because the pain comes so great when you're so hyper connected. But my experience has been that the joy makes it all tolerable for all the pain we're all going to feel. That joy of mattering to your patients and them mattering to you. And I just want to give one quick other little thing that just shows that so much. About 6 years ago, my brother died, my only brother, and then my mother died a month later. And my patients, had heard some of this from our staff. And one patient who I see every month for management of chronic pain made an appointment 2 weeks after I'd seen her before, and I wasn't really sure why. And she walks in and she hears, "I just heard that your mother had passed away, Dr. Powell, and I'm here because I just want to hold your hand for the next 20 minutes. I don't want you to ask me a question. I'm here for you, and I just want to hold your hand." And that's it, the type of thing where I feel that our patients help take care of us. And this is a world of burnout, and I really feel like as we open up and we show that caring for people as a person, as well as sharing a little bit about ourselves. I mean, I know we have boundaries and we have to be very, very careful, but patients want to know who is the person who is recommending these treatments. So I think that we all have that. We all have close friends. We all have people we connect with. And I feel we all have that innately in us. And it's tapping into that I think allows for these very, very deep relationships.
Make a comment you made.
This is Jovi, Gary. Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely. Please, Joey, go ahead.
Dr. Powell, my question is simple. How did you end up being an internist instead of a pediatrician?
Well, I'll tell you, I absolutely love pediatrics, and I actually wanted to go into med peds at one point. I felt that was a good fit for me, and what happened to me was mainly when I was taking, I took care of a 4-year-old when I was on my pediatrics rotation, and I got very, very, very connected with the family and the child ended up at the end of my pediatric rotation passing away. And for me, that was, with the connection I had, I just struggled so much with the family's grief, the mom and dad's grief. And I as I got down to like, do I do the med peds route? I thought for myself, maybe I'll do a little better with handling this with adults, but I love both fields. And, there's nothing I love more than sitting down with a 13-year-old and talking life with them, and just the ability to listen to them and what they struggle with, and just the incredible depth of those conversations. So I was extremely tempted to become a pediatrician.
I really think you're a pediatrician at heart.
Thank you. I take that as a wonderful compliment.
And it's meant as one. Other questions or comments from anybody else? I've got one other. We've got about probably another 5 or 6 minutes max before we need to transition. But I wanted to give other people an opportunity to interact with Dr. Powell's students or other participants or faculty. Doug, I'm going to throw another one at you. And that has to do with the future. So, I loved your comment. Actually, I wrote it down. That as physicians, sometimes we're fearful of showing our humanness. That resonated with me. And it just seems to me there are certain enduring aspects of being a physician that it doesn't matter the circumstances. These are enduring themes, enduring circumstances, enduring connections that we have with our patients. And obviously, this has been a trying year for everybody everywhere. You're looking into the future with your crystal ball. Not so much, about what's going to happen with the pandemic or, world economy and all that kind of stuff, but, the future of medicine, I guess, and its place in a rapidly changing world. I'm assuming, just based upon your personality, you're generally positive about that, but I don't know. So I'm kind of curious, and maybe we'll wrap it up with that, unless somebody else has something else they want to put in chat about what do you see? What do you see when you look into the future?
Well, that we have lots of challenges because, and Gary, you and I have both been practicing medicine for a long time, and the amount of extra for every clinic visit of a patient in the hospital is a lot more in documentation, in following up, in prior authorizations. There are so many things that are hard for people that I think sometimes we get overwhelmed with the system is so broken that we are getting away from taking care of our patients, and we're doing this other things, but one of the things, like, for example, that the pandemic has brought us, it's a silver lining, is the acceleration of the ability to use telehealth, which is something that is really a helpful thing for physicians and patients together. And it was going to be 2-3 years away. I also believe on January 1, there's going to be changes in documentation rules that will be very, very favorable to take away some of those things. So that when you look at the big picture, we get into the small picture all the time that frustrates us, but we do see some evolution and some improvements and things. But I want to finish with, we never can get to the place where it's just our diagnostic and our therapeutic knowledge, because the difference between figuring things out and people truly being healed is the people connection that we know from many studies, that when patients believe in the plan and that they have trust in their doctor, that their outcomes are better. And we want that. We want that because we want to be successful, but we care about our patients and our people. So there is always a huge need of this connection to our patients, because it helps them be healthier and it helps us be healthier.
So the connection to our patients is the enduring theme that will persist beyond our years here on Earth. And I love that. I'm very happy and quite frankly humbled by your comments in many ways, Doug. So I wanted to thank you again for joining us today on this really celebratory day for our inductees. So I'm going to give you a virtual clap, not even a virtual clap. I'm going to give you a real clap here, and really take care. I don't know if you're staying on or if you're logging off. You can do what you needed to at this point. But again, I wanted to thank you, and I look forward to connecting with you again sometime soon.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm very honored to be able to speak to all of you, and I also am very aware of the mission of Michigan State as a medical school, and it's really very much in line with what my values and what I care about. So that makes me even more honored to be able to speak to all of you.
Yeah, thank you. And you've got a lot of thank yous coming in on the chat right now. So. All right, we're going to switch gears here, and I'm going to turn it over. We're starting the formal part of the program where we start with the induction process. So I wanted to turn it over to Dr. Renuka Guerra. She is the Alumni Committee Chair. She is also a professor and division chief at the MSU Adolescent Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Division in the Department of Pediatrics and Human Development. She has been on an AOA member for 15 years, and I've worked quite closely with her over the past, since I've been counselor for the past 4 or 5 years, in terms of this whole process of getting alumni recognized for all the excellent work that they're doing. So Dr. Guerra, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Gary. It's really my pleasure and honor to introduce our 2 alumni inductees who are so well accomplished and committed to our college mission. Our first inductee is Dr. Keller, MD, MHSA, who is a maternal and fetal medicine specialist. He currently serves as the Chief Medical Officer at Advocate Lutheran General Hospital, and is also the Vice President of Medical Management at Advocate Children's Hospital, both in metropolitan Chicago. I think his a big accomplishment also is that he is a graduate of CHM, MSU, class of 1984 with Dr. Gary Ferenczak. So they have really been through the medical school and have kept in contact during their professional career. Following a medical school, Dr. Keller completed his residency in OBGYN at Sinai Hospital of Detroit and is a fellowship in maternal and fetal medicine at Northwestern University. Dr. Keller earned his graduate degree in health service administration from University of Michigan after completing that fellowship, and is a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executive. Dr. Keller has held several leadership roles at Advocate Health, care in the clinical, administrative, graduate medical, and education area. He served on board of directors of Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine, as well as College of Human Medicine Alumni Board. Dr. Keller has 2 grown children, and he lives in Chicago with his wife, Beth. Congratulations, Dr. Keller. And now I invite him to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much. Along with the honor of being inducted into the AOA Honor Society, I was asked to give a short reflection. It's easier to reflect on my relationship with the college when the chapter counselor is one of your classmates. Gary, who knew during those Frisbee football games and potlucks that over 40 years later, we would be sharing a virtual stage in this manner. The college and the lessons learned there remain a foundation of how I lead my professional life. That foundation, however, would not have been enough without the support from my family, who I'm so lucky to have joining me this morning. Although my formal learning took place over a 4-year period, the college continues to provide opportunities for personal growth and development. For the past 10 years, I've been privileged to serve on the alumni board of the College of Human Medicine. Along with strengthening my ties to the college and some very special alumni and staff, this opportunity has allowed me to appreciate the great personal satisfaction that comes with giving back in such a meaningful way. In this way, the college continues to impact me, and for this, I will always be grateful. Thank you for this honor.
Thank you. And now I'll introduce our second inductee, Dr. Khan J. Ned. He is an internal medicine physician, community leader, entrepreneur, and a researcher. He presently serves as CEO of Answer Health, a Western Michigan clinical integrated network of over 1,000 independent physician providers who are committed to bringing improved quality and cost-effective care to the residents of West Michigan. He is also the president and owner of Infusion Associates. Dr. Ned is renowned for his work around building strong communications and for his work addressing healthcare disparity. He has spoken and written extensively on the issue of healthcare diversity. Dr. Ned is a native-born islander from Grenada, where he completed his high school education before immigrating to the United States. Dr. Ned received his BS from Andrews University in Berrien Spring, Michigan. He received his MD degree from Michigan State University College of Human Medicine. He completed his residency in internal medicine at the Blodgett in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Following his postgraduate training, he has completed fellowship in process improvement. Dr. Ned serves on several boards, including the Kellogg Foundation, Grand Rapids African American Health Institute, Hospice of Michigan, Hope Network, and the advisory board for the Richard and Helen DeVos Ethics. Past board membership include Grand Rapids Urban League and board chair for Alliance for Health. So as I have stated, he has expertise in many areas, and he has really distinguished himself and truly is deserving of this honor. Congratulations, Dr. Ned. And now I would invite you to say a few words.
Yes, thank you so much. First, thank you for those who have taken the time to, during this difficult pandemic, to make sure that we have in this virtual world the ability to still have this induction ceremony. I certainly would like to, thank the individuals who have seen it fit to nominate me to be a part of this prestigious group of individuals. I'm also, honored to be part of an organization that, for over 100 years have been in existence, but I've also seen the importance of recognizing that, inclusion and diversity, plays an important part in, how we serve in the service of the suffering. I would like to, definitely first congratulate my fellow alumni inductees. Of course, we all here because if we stand on very broad shoulders of those that have gone before us, so that we can be given this opportunity to look in reflection of our lives and be thankful for what we have achieved to this point. To the faculty inductees, who are charged with guiding the minds of promising minds of our future, I want to say we see you, we appreciate you, and we thank you for your service. To the residents and students, inductees, you are the next act, the future. And again, we appreciate you and we look forward to what you are doing. But especially, I want to say something to the unsung heroes, who are part of our hospitals or clinics or laboratories, who do the daily grind that makes us who we are. And again, I'd like to say you make us who we are, and we recognize that, and we feel that you are very much part of the successes that we enjoy. I've been enriched by this great opportunity, and that has been awarded me in my life. And I think the future is hopeful, and I'm optimistic that the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Congratulations. And now, Dr. Mark Delano, Associate Professor and Director of Division of Radiology and Biomedical Imaging, will introduce our faculty inductees.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. I'd like to first begin with introducing Dr. Anderson. Dr. David Anderson is an associate professor of radiology at Michigan State University's College of Human Medicine and is director of the Division of Breast Imaging. He completed medical school at the University of Texas Health Sciences Center at San Antonio and residency and fellowship at the Medical College of Virginia. Dr. Anderson grew up in East Lansing, the son of an MSU professor. He graduated from Northwestern University with a degree in chemical engineering, after which he worked for Standard Oil of Ohio and then an engineering consulting firm in Dallas. Along the way, he earned his MBA from Case Western University. Dr. Anderson then redirected his aptitude in science and management to the field of medicine, obtaining his MD, followed by a residency in diagnostic radiology, where he received the M. Pinson Neal Jr. MD Outstanding Resident Award, and subsequently completed a breast imaging fellowship at the Medical College of Virginia. He entered clinical practice in Lansing, focusing on breast care, and in 2004, he founded the Breast Center of Lansing, focusing on providing highly personalized approach to breast cancer detection and image-guided breast interventional procedures, which subsequently joined the MSU Department of Radiology. Dr. Anderson is the co-director of the MSU Breast Imaging and Musculoskeletal Radiology Fellowship, where he's been actively engaged in training many future radiologists. He's widely recognized for his teaching of technologists, medical students, and residents. Additionally, he's a commonly invited presenter at medical conferences. He serves editorial boards and has had numerous publications spanning the past 2 decades. His recent research interests are in the use of sonoelastography in breast cancer diagnosis. In recognition of his service to the college, dedication to students, residents, and fellows, and outstanding patient advocacy, it is with pleasure that I welcome Dr. Anderson as a faculty member of the Gamma chapter of Alpha Omega Alpha. Dr. Anderson.
Well, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. And I feel very honored to be selected to be in AOA. I've been privileged to be doing breast imaging for about the last 20 years, and it's allowed me to help thousands of patients, and I've had the opportunity to educate patients and students and residents and fellows, which is something I really enjoy doing. I'd like to just give some thanks to a lot of people who helped me get here. Dr. Harvey Bumpers, he's a breast surgeon that I work with very closely. He's an exceptional colleague and surgeon. He's like a brother and best friend to me, and he's genuinely a very good person. I'd like to thank Dr. Ellen Shaw-Day Paredes. She was my mentor at Medical College of Virginia that really got me interested in doing breast imaging and taught me my profession, and was a great example of how to care for patients and how to run patient-centered breast practice. I'd like to thank people at Breast Center of Lansing, that founding staff, Patty Patterson, Peggy Bryan, and Dory Rushkamp, who were technologists that followed me they left stable jobs and went to a very uncertain situation in a brand new practice, and they made the success possible at the Breast Center of Lansing. I'd like to also then thank to the Department of Radiology at MSU. They've allowed me to practice the way that I think breast imaging should be practiced, very patient-centered way of practicing. We have fantastic staff there, from the front office all the way to scheduling to all the technologists and my fellow physicians. It's been a very great experience there. The patients feel very welcome there and comfortable, and it's been a great honor to work with MSU. And finally, I'd like to thank my family, my parents, who always encouraged me and supported me, and my sister Kathy and her husband Jeff, my amazing children, Lauren, Carter, and Eric, and their spouses AJ, Caitlin, and Stacy. And I have to say to Carter, he's a doctor, he's a third-year resident, and he made it into AOA 25 years before me, so I think that's really great. And then like to thank finally my incredible wife, Elise. She's the love of my life and my life partner. She sacrificed her dreams so I could pursue mine, and I owe everything to her. And finally, some advice to students. I'd like to just point out that medicine is a team sport. Your success depends on the work and passion of many people, and I'm a living example of that. And I thank everyone that's helped me get to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Julie Phillips. Dr. Phillips is a professor of family medicine at the Spiro MSU Family Medicine Residency Program and Assistant Dean of Student and Career and Professional Development at MSU's College of Human Medicine. She completed her medical school, Master's of Public Health, and residency education at the University of Michigan. Dr. Phillips has been serving the mission of our college since 2007 and has built a reputation as a highly skilled physician and valued mentor and teacher of medical students and residents. Dr. Phillips' professional interests include medical student professional development, social mission-driven medical education, medical humanities, and development of the primary care physician workforce. She's been recognized with numerous teaching awards from the college. She served as primary mentor for our residency's required research curriculum and has assisted in projects by dozens of our family medicine residents and medical students. Her scholarly productivity has resulted in 58 peer-reviewed publications, 3 book chapters, and more than 80 poster presentations. Dr. Phillips has been principal or co-investigator on 12 grants, and she's had dozens of invited national and international presentations. She serves on the editorial board of Family Medicine and is an associate editor for Primer. This August, she was recognized by her peers with the Society of Teachers in Family Medicine Research Paper of the Year Award. Dr. Phillips' service to the administration of the college has been exemplary, with membership on numerous committees and leadership roles. In addition to these successes serving the education, research, and outreach missions of the college, Dr. Phillips teaches and leads through example of her work as a master family physician serving the needs of patients. In recognition and appreciation of her record of scholarly work, education, patient care, and administrative service, I am delighted to welcome Dr. Julie Phillips as a faculty member of the Gamma chapter of Alpha Omega Alpha. Dr. Phillips?
Thank you, Dr. Delano, for that wonderful introduction. I am certainly delighted to be here and very honored. I appreciate the words of our introduction and Dr. DePauw's words about excellence. And I've been thinking about that as I've been sitting here. I For some reason, I've been thinking a lot about my grandma today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my grandma. My grandma was a third grade teacher. And I come from a family where there are a lot of teachers. And I was the first in my family to go to medical school, and I'm still the only doctor in my family, but I'm surrounded by people who teach at multiple levels. And I remember when I was talking with my grandma about medical school as a college student, she kept saying, I don't know about this, Julie. I just don't see you as a doctor. I think you're really a teacher. I was like, no, Grandma, I'm going to medical school. That's where I belong. I want to be a doctor. And it turns out my grandma was right, although it took me a while to figure that out. I'm really a teacher at heart. And I also owe what I have as a teacher to a lot of great teachers who have come before me. And I very much think that I have been successful in part because I'm at the College of Human Medicine, which is a place that really celebrates teachers and educators. And I just feel very much taken care of and glad to have been mentored by so many great and wonderful people in the time that I've been here. So thank you. I want to thank especially the teachers I have who are on the Zoom today. Dr. Barry, Dr. Sousa, Dr. Lipscomb, and Dr. Wagner have all been very important mentors to me. So thank you so much. And thank you for inducting me into AOA.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. I'd like to now turn the Zoom over to Dr. Jovi Scott-Anvapur, Professor of Pediatric and Adolescent Hematology and Oncology from our Department of Pediatrics and Human Development. He's an alumni inductee from 1991. Dr. Scott?
Thank you very much. This year, we have 4 residence inductees. There's one thing that is common to all 4 of them. They have all been recognized for their outstanding and impressive scholarship. They've also been recognized for their teaching, their service to the community, as well as service to the College of Human Medicine. And so I'm just going to, for interest of time, I'm not going to go through all of the accolades and all of what they have accomplished. The first inductee is Dr. Tanya Afshan. Dr. Tanya Afshan is currently a 3rd-year resident physician in pediatrics at Spectrum Health, Michigan State University, and Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. She completed her undergraduate degrees in sociology and Spanish at Boston University. She then pursued a master's of public health degree at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. That is prior to attending and completing medical school at the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, which is her hometown. Following her anticipated graduation from residency in this coming June, she plans to complete fellowship training in the field of allergy and immunology. She enjoys spending time with her family and friends, playing piano and guitar, cooking and baking, and hiking with her dogs. Mr. Counselor, I present to you Tanya Afshan. I don't know whether we are supposed to give them time to say a word or two. If we do, then I turn it over to Dr. Afshan.
Hello, thank you. I'm honored to have been chosen for induction into AOA during my residency, and I would just like to say thank you.
The next inductee is Dr. Nicholas Cozy. Dr. Nicholas Cozy is Chief Emergency Medicine Resident, also at Spectrum Health, Michigan State University College of Human Medicine. And he is also chair of the Spectrum Health Staff Council. Nicholas is also chair-elect of the Emergency Medicine Resident Association, Administration and Operations Committee, and is also representative to the American College of Emergency Medicine. Dr. Nicola serves as the Emergency Medicine Residents Association Scholar on the Emergency Department Practice Management Association, Federal Health Policy Committee, as well as the Education Committee. Dr. Cozy was recently highlighted as a Central Michigan University 10 within 10 award recipient, an honor that is bestowed upon 10 alumni who have graduated within the last 10 years and who have brought honor to Central Michigan University within their careers. It is my pleasure to present to you Dr. Nicholas Cozy. Dr. Cozy, in a word.
Thank you very much for this honor. Thank you to Dr. Jason Seaman, my program director, the Department of Emergency Medicine, as well as the Michigan State College of Human Medicine. As a kid from the south side of Chicago, this is a great honor indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cozy. Congratulations. Next inductee is Dr. Danielle Doherty, who was born and raised in Southern New Jersey. She graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with majors in political science and economics. She spent a year in Santiago, Chile, studying and interning at UNESCO, and she lived for over 2 years in Maun, Botswana, working at the women's shelter as a Peace Corps volunteer. After returning to the United States, she continued to work on multiple projects with the locally run shelter and made several trips back to Botswana. Back in New Jersey, she spent some time as a case manager for youth in the juvenile justice system while applying for post-baccalaureate medical programs, and then attended medical school at the University of Michigan, where she graduated with distinction in medical education in 2015. A general surgery residency was completed at Sparrow Hospital, Michigan State University in 2020, and she's currently a pediatric surgery critical care fellow at the University of Michigan. It is my pleasure to present to you Dr. Danielle Doherty. Congratulations, Dr. Doherty.
Thank you so much for this honor. I'm so pleased to be given this honor and to be here with all of you. And I especially want to thank my program director, Dr. Lindsay, and as well as Dr. Bray. You've always been there for me, supporting me this whole time. And also my parents who've been there for me from the beginning. I thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Now, the last inductee, resident inductee would be Dr. Arunima Dutta, who is a third year internal medicine resident at McLaurin Flint, which is the campus of Michigan State University College of Human Medicine. Dr. Dutta earned her medical degree from Silchar Medical College and Hospital in India, and prior to joining the McLaurin Flint residency program, she was general practitioner in a rural community health center and in multi-specialty hospital in India. Dr. Dutta is an active scholar with multiple presentations at national conferences and numerous peer review publications. She serves as an editorial assistant for Open Journal of Psychiatry and Allied Sciences and was recently selected as a peer reviewer for the Journal of Graduate Medical Education. Dr. Dutta is the 2020 recipient of the Resident Investigator of the Year Award at MSU Flint Area Medical Education Program. Dr. Dutta is also a champion for resident wellness and was instrumental in constructing the wellness curriculum for internal medicine residents. She currently co-chairs the Residents Wellness Committee and serves on the Graduate Medical Education Committee. Her program director and faculty commend her for her excellence in patient care, scholarly productivity, leadership, and professionalism. Dr. Dutta plans a career in primary care medicine with a focus on addiction medicine and gastroenterology. Besides medicine, she enjoys cooking authentic Indian food, gardening, photography, painting. Dr. Dutta lives with her husband in Clarkston, Michigan. Congratulations, Dr. Dutta.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely honored to have been inducted into the AOA Society today. I'd like to thank my parents, my husband for being there for me always. And I would also like to thank my program director, Dr. Parul Sood, for believing in me. I'd also like to congratulate the rest of the inductees for today's ceremony. Thank you.
Mr. Counselor, it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Henry Berry, who is an emeritus professor in the Department of Family Medicine and also an emeritus senior associate dean for faculty affairs at the College of Medicine, Michigan State University. He was a faculty inductee into AOA in 2001, 19 years ago. Dr. Berry.
Thank you. So, as Dr. Ferencik mentioned, that to be inducted into Alpha Omega Alpha, the College of Human Medicine expects students to have sustained outstanding performance in the areas of academic performance, teaching, research, and service and leadership. The student selection committee uses a holistic process without knowledge of the identity of the nominees. So for them, today's the first time they will know the names of the student inductees. Nonetheless, the committee congratulates each of you. We have two groups of students, and I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. The first group of students are those who are being inducted after completing the late clinical experience. So first is Jennifer Boychel. Jenny has focused much of her activities at CHM around children, having served as coach, counselor, tutor, and mentor. She also has worked on a screening tool to identify acute stress disorder among adolescents with venous thromboembolic phenomena. It shouldn't be surprising that her career plans include the care of children. Congratulations, Jennifer. Next is Mara Bazurko. Mara has devoted a good deal of her efforts while in CHM on issues affecting vulnerable groups, whether through writing AMA resolutions, working at a food bank, or research on pain in the elderly. Her nominator reports that she is warm, engaging, and compassionate, and that she would offer assistance to classmates, whether the struggles were academic or personal. Well done, Mara. Next is Jacob Boersma. In addition to outstanding performance in his clinical rotations, Jacob has been an active participant in the college's admissions processes, including serving as a student member of the admissions committee. Additionally, he has had an active research portfolio and has presented at regional research conferences. Well done. Next is Catherine Boyer. Catherine has been active in multiple mission areas even before matriculation to the college. Most of her efforts have this central theme of caring for children and women. She has volunteered for several youth-oriented programs, including those that promote exercise and healthy behaviors. She has also been active in peer teaching and research. Not surprisingly, she plans to pursue a career in pediatrics. Strong work, Catherine. Next is Allison Brown. Allison is described by her mentor as persistent, level-headed, and a team player. While at CHM, she is engaged in numerous volunteer activities, including those with patients who have had head or spinal injuries or for those who are in wheelchairs. She's also engaged in multiple research projects. Thank you for your good work, Allison. Levi Fry. Levi has spent a great deal of time in emergency care settings and in outpatient cardiology offices. He has also been active as a peer tutor. His research mentor points out that he is one of a small handful of CHM students who have actually been able to obtain grant funding as a principal investigator, this for his work on cholesterol crystals. While he is described at first blush as being reserved and formal, his mentor points out that he is quick to form relationships with colleagues and patients. Congratulations. Next is Caitlin Herdman. Caitlin tells us that she's a newlywed who grew up in the thumb of Michigan. She actually started out in nursing school before deciding that she wanted to be a physician. She is enrolled in the Medical Partners in Public Health Certificate Program, where, among other things, she's been engaged in community youth programs. She plans a career in emergency medicine. Well done, Caitlin. Next is Stefan Holohan. Stefan is described as being well-organized and goal-oriented, and he balances these traits by being a compassionate, caring, and highly respectful individual. He is committed to rural healthcare and has volunteered to provide low-cost medications to vulnerable patients. Thank you, Stefan. Next is Lindsay Kiskilla. While at CHM, Lindsay has been active as a teacher and a leader. She has taught and mentored students and has served on the Dean's Student Advisory Committee and has served as the recruitment chair for the American Medical Women's Association. She's been engaged in several research projects, many of which focus on imaging modalities. Her nominator describes her as focused, motivated, and quick to express gratitude to others. Strong work, Lindsay. Next is Cody Kleinrickert. As a member of the U.S. Navy Health Profession Scholarship Program, Cody was a leader in creating the Military Medical Student Organization to facilitate mentoring and networking among military scholars. In addition to medical mission work and other volunteer activities, he has also had several research presentations to his interests in imaging. Thank you, Cody. Next is Daryl Coley. Daryl is a student in the Rural Physicians Program in the Upper Peninsula who's had a lifelong goal to be in medicine. His interests and activities are wide-ranging, and he plans a career in ophthalmology. His nominator describes him as brilliant yet humble, and that he communicates effectively with patients, family, and team members. Good effort. Next is Colin Laporte. Colin appears to be a little bit of a jock. He played collegiate rugby as an undergraduate and continues to play, and he also volunteers for the ski patrol and for several of Northern Michigan University's competitive teams. He's been active in several research projects for which he has several presentations and publications. He is described as a genuinely positive person and brings enthusiasm to the learning environment. Congratulations, Colin. Next is Man-Kwan Lee. Man-Kwan has a unique background with undergraduate degrees in cell and molecular biology and art and design. So both sides of her brain are working very well. She hopes to contribute to a culture of innovation and discovery that improves perioperative care for patients. Her nominators report that she is humble, warm, and compassionate and would do anything to assist classmates. Thank you. Next is Lane McCandless. Like many of our AOA inductees, Lane has accomplished much while here at CHM. She has led student interest groups, has done medical mission work in the Caribbean, and in addition to her research, she's participated in projects at other academic institutions. Strong work. Next is Shab Musab. Shab is described as outgoing, hardworking, and deliberate. He has broad research experience and has taught and mentored youth in a variety of different settings, including at Access and at Edsall Ford High School in Dearborn. He also combined his volunteer work on community safety with surveys to reduce crime rates in communities. Thank you for that effort. Next is Bridget Myers. In her time at CHM, Bridget has multiple peer-reviewed research publications, has co-authored 3 book chapters, and is devoted to volunteerism, including work at free clinics in Lansing and Detroit, and has worked with the Physicians for Social Responsibility. On top of all of her CHM and outside activities, she also took a research year at UCSF, where she expanded her research accomplishments. Her nominator describes her as warm, sincere, and thoughtful. Congratulations. Next is Sultan Kiblawi. Sultan's nominator reports that he is a talented, genuine, and personal human being. In addition to his CHM studies, he worked on an MBA between his 2nd and 3rd years. He is an accomplished and published researcher and has dedicated volunteer activities, including service as chair of the CHM Council on Diversity Education, and has served as the chair of the Health and Wellness Committee. Well done. Next is Shaun Rahman. Shaun is described as friendly, compassionate, and respectful. In addition to performing well in his clerkships, he has significant research experience and is focused on giving back through teaching, tutoring, and mentoring, including serving in these roles for homeschooled students in a Bangladeshi community health center. Having been a recipient of care free clinics himself, he has many hours of volunteering at local free clinics. Thank you. Next is Sheridan Reed. Prior to matriculation into CHM, Sheridan has a significant career conducting research and has continued to be active, including taking a year to do a research fellowship in the Medical Research Scholars Program at NIH. She is equally passionate about mentorship and care for the underserved, and her portfolio clearly shows this. Congratulations. Next is Eric Sheffield. Eric has devoted much effort while at CHM in helping others, whether as a tutor or as a volunteer or serving on various CHM committees. His nominator describes him as an engaged learner, very self-motivated, organized, and proactive, and that he's very professional and a strong advocate for patient rights. Nice effort. Next is Ranuka Sinya. In addition to his regular CHM studies, Ranu has also been involved in some pretty heavy-duty research on cancer epigenetics that have led to multiple presentations and publications. He's also been active as a mentor for pre-med students and has helped develop innovative educational programs for his peers. Thank you. Next is Corey Taylor. Turns out that Corey is one of those few students who has spent his entire CHM life in the same campus, in this case, in Grand Rapids. He has participated in several studies related to urologic cancers, resulting in publications and presentations. His interests in cancer also translates to his service, where he has volunteered at Gilda's Place. Well done. Next is Jessica Walker. Prior to matriculation into CHM, Jessica had prior research activity and has continued this while at CHM, largely in the areas of surgical oncology. She is also engaged in peer tutoring and served as a blue coat in anatomy. It appears, by the way, that in addition to the couples match that she reported, that she and her fiance Corey are also being inducted into AOA together, and just by happenstance happen to be consecutive inductees in today's lineup. Congratulations on many levels. Next is Ellen Watala. Ellen's nominator told me that among things that her dedication, motivation, and bright outlook on medicine and care is truly inspiring. Her research on imaging in children suffering from blunt trauma has resulted in presentations and a publication. Her nominator also noted that she is proactive and confident, yet maintains humility, a combination that makes her seen as trusted and approachable. Thank you, Ellen. Next is Mulin Shang. Mulin is described as an energetic and detailed-oriented student and a team player. She has excelled in research with numerous publications and oral and poster presentations, and she's held numerous leadership positions, including co-chair of the Dean's Student Advisory Committee. Well done, Mulin. Next is Abdul Yassin Kassab. I've known Abdul and his family since before he matriculated. In addition to being passionate about caring for the underserved, he has also made significant commitments to go to Syrian refugee camps in Jordan, where he helped conduct needs assessments to improve healthcare delivery there. One of my great colleagues, who just also happens to be his mother, describes him as a caring and compassionate person with a great work ethic. He always maintains a positive attitude and is driven by his love for his family, friends, and community. Congratulations and well done, Abdul. Next is Rachel Zulig. Intellectually, based on her undergraduate training in human rights and global health, it seems that Rachel was very well matched to the values of CHM and Alpha Omega Alpha. While here at CHM, she has been active with student interest groups and has volunteered in several programs for local youths. After a medical service trip, she and her teammates are actually working on a quality improvement project to try to improve the delivery and the planning of these, and has some manuscripts on planning these trips. Thank you again for your efforts, Rachel. The last group of students are those who are being inducted after completing the middle clinical experience. The first is Jawad Khazal. Jawad's nominator reported that he has demonstrated outstanding participation in research studies in his first 2 years. He has also had time to participate in community events and volunteerism. In particular, he's already a co-author on a peer-reviewed publication, has served as a leader in several student interest groups, and has volunteered with Special Olympics, as near as I could tell, just about every week. Congratulations, Jawad. Next is Christopher Kruger. Chris reports that he is a graduate of Holt High School, which also happened to graduate my daughter, although at least a decade earlier. In addition to outstanding academic performance, he's volunteered to do health screenings for the homeless and promote healthy eating and exercise in children. He has supported excellence in education by serving as an admissions ambassador, AQS leader, and peer tutor. He hopes to pursue a career in pediatrics. Strong work. Next is Chui Young Cook. After graduating from Hope College, Chui Young Cynthia Cook went on to earn a master's degree from the Van Andel Institute. Cynthia has been very successful in combining education, support, scholarship, advocacy, and leadership, both locally and regionally. A common theme of much of Cynthia's work is strong advocacy for the LGBT community. And I noticed that during the chat that Dr. Paul has made Cynthia actually strongly think about including primary care as a career option. Congratulations, Cynthia. Next is Ada Pariser. Ada's academic interests and service activities are clearly focused on the health of those living in rural communities, including having done research on cancer screening among migrant workers, a qualitative study of rural Black persons' access to healthcare, and has served on 2 councils within the National Rural Health Association. Congratulations. Our last student inductee is Donna Tran. Donna's interest in mental health, aging, and cancer have led her to be an active advocate. She has participated in an NIH-funded initiative to support medical students' research training and is actively engaged, among other things, in NIH-funded research on sociodemographic and modifiable risk factors for dementia and cognitive aging in adults. Well done. I'd like to just take a moment for a personal reflection. This time a year ago, my little brother died. I couldn't help but think of him as I reviewed each of the students' bio sketches. While he wasn't in healthcare and was not a scholar, his vocation and his avocations were in the service of others, the pursuit of excellence, and to serve as a leader in his community for disadvantaged youths. These qualities mirror the values espoused by Alpha Omega Alpha and are reflected in each of the students we inducted today. Thank you all for your outstanding service to the values of Alpha Omega and the college, and congratulations to all of our inductees.
Dr. Berry, I wanted to thank you for all the heavy lifting in terms of very detailed review of the applicants and ultimately the selection of our inductees. Also wanted to thank Drs. Guerra, Delano, and Scott Amakpour for their work as chairs of their various committees as well. I just wanted to, we're going to finish off here in a little bit, but I wanted to come back to this. I'm assuming my screen is being shared, or maybe it's not. Let me just double check. Yeah, I just wanted to come back to this where we started today, basically, and the conceptual framework, which is not my busy desktop, but is actually this slide right here, which really is, you know, sitting through and listening to everybody about how much and how many of you exemplify these ideals, basically, that have been in existence since 1902 and the like, which really is recognizing, valuing, and anticipating, and I wish I would have put that on this little slide right here, and anticipating, you know, future excellence in the profession of medicine, because I really think that all of you who have been inducted today, those of you who are older certainly have exemplified this, and those of you who are younger certainly have the promise to continue to exemplify many of the fine, not just qualities, but also, you know, outcomes that Dr. Berry had talked about during his introductory comments. Okay, I just wanted to say thank you, and you know, this is just really a joy to sit back and watch and learn from you all as well. Before I go to my next slide, I'm going to introduce Dr. Sousa, but I just wanted to remind everybody one more time to stick around, particularly the inductees, to stick around afterwards so we can get a group photo. After Dr. Sousa is done, make sure that you just stick around so we can get that done. And finally, I wanted to go back to where I started also by thanking Amy Fowler and Joyce Scott for really helping us pull this off in a really seamless way. So again, I wanted to recognize your efforts as well. So we're going to finish off with the closing remarks. Dr. Aaron Sousa, who is a graduate of IU School of Medicine and was a resident here back, I believe, in the early to mid 90s in internal medicine, and a graduate of our now defunct, but nevertheless highly successful at the time, primary care fellowship. He's a full-time general medicine faculty, was until 2006. He's still partly in the Department of Medicine because I know he's very clinically active. He, in 2006, became the Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, where he oversaw both the physical and educational expansion of CHM. As I mentioned, he is a practicing internist. That's him actually practicing internal medicine fist bump on the wards, and more recently, practicing appropriate social distancing and mitigation strategies for COVID. So join me in welcoming Dr. Aaron Sousa for the closing remarks for this year's induction ceremony.
Thank you, Dr. Ferencik. That little tour through pictures, that little baby is now a junior in college. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank the whole team who helps put this together. You already mentioned Amy Fowler and Joy Scott, but I want to thank Melissa Kakos and Tamara Dillingham for helping put together today's event. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today in this expanded and remarkable virtual opportunity, which provides uninterrupted and great opportunity for the fridge, as well as gathering together. And I think that there's a real special part to getting together like this in a time of COVID and change in the country. We need people like those of you who have been inducted into AOA like never before. You can be ambassadors for science, ambassadors for the place of medicine and public health, ambassadors for the stories that our patients tell and their experiences. You and all of our colleagues make the difference. There is no doubt after a pandemic that health is the fundamental building block on which the rest of our society is built. As we've known through the lockout and through the economic turmoil that has followed this pandemic, we have taken too much for granted as a society. And I think as a profession, we have not been adequately protective of that role, that educator role, the role of advocate, the role of public intellectual that helps lead the country such that it's ready to deal with challenges like this, like climate change, like racism, like limited opportunity, like social disparities, like childhoods that don't have opportunity because of poor air, poor water, poor educational opportunity. We know that those all turn into health. Health is the common final pathway, and it is the requirement for society to advance. You have an opportunity. You have a special privilege, having not just been in medical school, but being anointed as a leader, as surely admission to the AOA does. I want to welcome you to that challenge. I want to help you. I want you to turn to your faculty and your peers to realize that the difference that you make has never been greater. The opportunity and the challenge has never been greater, and that is a wonderful thing. So I want to welcome you to that challenge. I want to thank you for engaging with it as you have already demonstrated. I want to thank you for being a part of the College of Human Medicine, for joining us here today and for sharing your screens with us. So with that, I wish you a great afternoon. Keep in touch with us. Let us know how it's going. And by all means, turn to us for opportunities to take on these challenges. And thank you, Gary. Thank you for being a mentor, for providing opportunity, and for helping us have an AOA.
Yes, well, thank you, Dr. Sousa. I was just thinking, there's the Lennon and McCartney, there's Rogers and Hammerstein, and there's Sousa and Wagner. I mean, there's common names that go together in the same sentence, and you and Diane fit like a glove.
I want to say one thing about that. Dr. Wagner and I, our partnership at the university began as clinic buddies. We were just seated next to each other randomly in clinic. And by, trading stories and helping each other with patients and taking each other into rooms to look at a rash that we didn't understand, that built an intellectual partnership that really has allowed us to feed off of each other's accomplishments. And I just want students to know that clinic buddy is a remarkable thing to find and to appreciate and cherish.
It also reminds me of the power of serendipity.
Mm-hmm.
And at times, serendipitous relationships or occurrences actually can have very, very, very long-term meaningful effects that you don't know ahead of time. So anyways, thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
So we are coming to the end here. I think we're moving on to the inductee group photo. So I don't know if Joy or Amy is going to take the screen now. So could one of you give me some direction right now?
Hello.